You've been waiting for a breakthrough, and it feels like it just won't come. You've been praying for a miracle, and it feels like it's taking too long. You've been waiting for a change, but you gotta keep holding on. It will work out some way, somehow. That God's gonna turn it around. You've been looking for a way out, but you can't find the open door. You've been searching for the answers, and you don't know what you're searching for. You've been praying for a change, hey, but you gotta keep holding on. It will work out some way, somehow. That God's gonna turn it around. Hey, you gotta remember, yes you do, it will work out for your good. For it's faithful, yes it is. Track record is good. You gotta remember, it will work out some way, somehow. Oh, it's coming soon. Turn around, it's coming soon. It's coming soon. So you gotta hold on to. We've been for a night, but you're turn around. It's coming soon. Don't give up, don't give in. You're too close. Hey. See, that's gonna turn around. Let me say, it's gonna turn it around. Let me say, God's gonna turn it around. Say, turn it around. Turn it around. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Turn it around. No, turn it around. No. Turn it around.
Amen. Those are the wonderful sounds of, I believe, Pastor Candy West, encouraging us that God is going to turn our situation around. And so, awesome song. Please go and download that particular album. Wonderful album. All the songs in there are good, but that was by Pastor Candy West. Welcome back, everyone. To Birmingham Bible Church's Winning Wednesday. We are super excited to be here back in this virtual space, back in this platform once again. We took the whole month of July off just to rest and get some relaxation. Then it was back to thinking and working again. But we're excited about just the lineup of August and everything that we're going to be able to talk to you guys about. Want to give you, of course, some topics that is for your life and for your living. And so we want to take a few minutes, of course, to thank all of our viewers for logging on. If you're watching via our Facebook page, our YouTube page, Twitter, our My Sunday app, don't forget to go to your app store, download My Sunday, which is one word, and do a search for our church. Of course, the invite code is BHM Bible. That's BHM Bible. But thank you for watching us via our website as well, bhmbc.org. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, thank you for sharing this with someone. Thank you for texting someone about this information. Thank you for tagging someone in the comment section because that's how we get the word out. We share it. And also a special thank you for Nikila Huggins. I reached out to her and I said, listen, I need you to make me some Winning Wednesday shirts because I'm tired of figuring out what I'm gonna wear every Wednesday. And so I want you to kind of take a look. I don't know if you can see it, but I said, hey, do me some Winning Wednesday shirts, different colors. And she did that. And so I appreciate her. If you need shirts for your family reunions, I don't know, class reunions, I don't know, whatever, for your class, for your husband, your wife, and y'all want to do the couples thing, reach out to her. You can probably reach out her to her on Facebook, Nikila Huggins. You can probably DM her, Nekela Huggins. Please support her. Of course, we love to support small businesses. And so thank you, Nikila, for all of my shirts. She's very economical. The shirts are great quality. So want to put a plug in for her. But of course, now all of our children are getting ready to go back to school, or maybe they are back in school. I think ours go back on Thursday, tomorrow. And so, y'all have gotten school supplies and, new outfits, new shoes or whatever, because they've been growing through the summer. And so we're trying to get the kids out and back. And of course, with that, we have to make sure that immunizations are up to date. Y'all know in Alabama, we have this immunization card that we have to get filled out by the doctor and stamped and dated. And then we got to take it to the registrar's office and all that good stuff. And so I thought, what better way to kick off the month of August than to talk about immunizations, and not just for children, but also for adults. Because I got to thinking, what are some, there may be some immunizations that we need, some shots that we need. And so, of course, I reached out to an expert, a doctor, Dr. Conrad Miller. He is from the Middle Georgia area. He has been with us before. And so please welcome him. He is Dr. Conrad Miller from the Miller Family Practice there in that area. And so, hello, Dr. Conrad, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Awesome. Thank you for being with us here on today and just being able to share a wealth of knowledge and, of course, dispelling any myths that are out there about vaccinations. And so I want to kick it off with why are vaccinations or immunizations important? Why
Okay.
should we get them?
Well, vaccinations, of course, are nothing new at this point in time. I'm sure all of our listeners have had, 1, 2, 5 vaccinations in the past. So, of course, what you said kind of alludes to recent controversy about vaccines. But basically, vaccines are a way of introducing chemicals into your body to prepare your body to fight off certain infections. And so, process goes back, I guess, in widespread, right around 100 years. So there, vaccinations for many conditions now. It started off very slowly with just a few, and has increased since that time. And of course, vaccines have changed over time. So a lot of times people might complain about, let's say, for example, the old flu vaccine, and they used to say that the flu shot made me sick. Well, back in the day, that actually was possible because they did use killed but whole virus particles were in the vaccine. So, of course, even though the virus itself was not alive, just all the different, proteins and chemicals and all that the virus was made of were all together in that vaccine, and they can make some people sick. Now it's just a few little very small pieces of the immunologic information that are in the vaccine for the flu. There's nothing that can actually make you sick with the flu. It just gives your body a clue as to, hey, what this looks like, so that if the organism actually comes into your body during flu season, that you'll have a heads up on what it looks like and how to fight it. So it's almost like if you were going on a trip, you were going to the mall that you've never gone to before, and you wanted to know, well, what entrance do I go into? And you looked on Google Maps, and they had the picture of the actual entrance, and so you can remember it. So you can drive to that entrance. Well, it's kind of the same thing for your body. Your body is just being prepared, by recognizing those chemicals, recognizing what it looks like in the body, so that it could attack it if it sees it as a foreign body.
And so, along that line, and I guess I'm going to be talking about more of childhood immunizations.
Mhm.
I know there were a lot of, there are some parents who say, well, I'm not going to give my child these vaccinations. They're putting chemicals in their body because at one point they were thinking it was causing autism. Any research or relevance to that?
That one has been brought up and looked at many times, and it's been totally disproven. I mean, I can understand why, some people might think that way, but it's been, disproven multiple times at this point in time. And I think people, like to think that, if something happens in close time proximity, that means it's a causality, but that's just not the case.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, certainly, there have been people that have been ill in some kind of ways short term from a vaccine. I mean, that's acknowledged. But as far as a lifelong condition like autism, that's just not the case.
Okay, good. So let's talk about a few childhood vaccinations that are, I guess, most relevant. The MMR vaccine, what is that? Because a lot of times we take our children to the doctor and they give you this paper with all these descriptions and, what it is, what it does, what it fights, but tell us what it is and how often should we get it?
Okay. Yeah, so there's actually a great schedule for all the childhood vaccines, and of course, I really don't see a whole lot of kids, so I don't have that committed to memory. But measles, mumps, rubella, these are all conditions that I learned about in med school, but no one who's a doctor younger than me has ever even seen these conditions because our population is so vaccinated against it. We don't really want to know what these things are like.
Right.
I mean, a few people. I mean, when I was a kid, I think had measles and mumps. Nobody really had rubella that much unless you were like slightly older than me. But I mean, if you're, for the most part, if you're younger than 65 or 70, you only know a few people that have had these conditions. And if you're younger than 50, you don't know anybody that's ever had these conditions.
Yeah.
And these aren't things that we want to see again, but those vaccines are the MMR is for measles, mumps, and rubella. These were all very common childhood conditions. The other one that's the childhood condition was chicken pox. I had it as a kid, but there's a chicken pox vaccine now. And of course, we all know that people who have chicken pox are set up for potentially having shingles later in life. So, and I know that was one of your questions that you've thrown out, but if a child now has the chicken pox vaccine, they will never get chicken pox. So they will never need the shingles vaccine when they're an adult. Now, I had chicken pox. I've had the shingles vaccine. I do not want, let me knock on wood here, I do not want actual shingles. But a person who's had chicken pox or a person who is uncertain and they're 50 or above, if they have not been vaccinated for chicken pox or they haven't had chicken pox, they will need the shingles vaccine, which is a 2-part vaccine.
Right. Right.
There was an original one maybe 10 years ago. It was a 1-part vaccine, and some people got that. But it's now felt that wasn't an adequate vaccine. So if you had that one, you still need to go back and get the newer one. That's 2 doses.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I believe, I can't remember. It was so many years ago. I was a little girl, and I believe I got chicken pox. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
And so, but it was the only thing I ever had.
Right.
But I'm over 50, so maybe I fall into that
range. Yeah, so I think you're going to need to go ahead and get the.
No, I'm going to go ahead and get
shingles vaccine. That's a whole lot better than shingles from everything I've seen and all the people I've treated with it. So I happily took that vaccine.
Yeah. And then let's talk about hepatitis. That's something that's probably across the board. So children get it. Tell us a little bit about that vaccine, what it does, and why we need it.
Well, of course, the hepatitis vaccine, that's on the newer side, at least as far as childhood immunization. So again, speaking from my experience, I got it as a student healthcare worker in med school, and really it was only given at that point in time to pretty much the healthcare workers or the military or the people who were doing a lot of travel for hepatitis B. And now it's the childhood immunization. So it's literally just to protect against the bloodborne disease hepatitis, which there are 3 main types and several minor types, meaning not as widespread or not as well defined. But the main hepatitis are A, B, and C. I think you did ask some questions about hepatitis A. That's really only common in developing nations. So it's not something that, unless we have massive social and economic change in this country, that's not something that we necessarily need if you're just walking around in the United States. But for a person who's traveling, to a developing nation, to a community with very poor hygiene standards, things like that, like if you're doing disaster relief or medical missionary work or even Christian missionary work to a very underdeveloped area, there might be a chance that that person would need the hepatitis A vaccine about 4 or so months before travel, because it takes a while to build up the immunity and it takes a while for your body to clear it out of your system, because a recently vaccinated person can actually shed the virus through their bodily functions and actually make it worse for the people they're going to travel and help. So that's why. So you'd actually need to have the vaccine very early before you traveled, or get immune globulin if you had to go very quickly, with travel.
Okay. And so I know children mostly get they stay on this schedule. And when you're a child, you stay on a schedule with a pediatrician. But as we become adults, is there ever time we're going to need a hepatitis shot?
If you missed it as an adult and you aren't a healthcare worker, I guess you could go backtrack and get it.
Yeah.
Insurance probably wouldn't pay for it if you didn't have a legitimate reason, because we know how insurances are. But say for yourself, if you're not doing anything, foreign travel, kind of off the grid, or doing a career change or something like that, there wouldn't be any need for you to get it at this point in time. Now, other things that like are vaccinated for now, but maybe weren't when we were kids. Some things, do need to be followed up on. And then some vaccines, like perhaps tetanus, you do need updates or boosters for as you get older. So usually people will get a tetanus booster if they get a cut or a scrape or something. That's almost an automatic at the urgent care center. But if you're doing it on a schedule, you could actually ask your family doctor to do it. And some of the drugstores now do a good job of keeping track of those things, and they like to do those vaccinations because, of course, they're pretty profitable. So they will tend to remind you of those things as well.
And so that's another question. So, I don't know where my immunization record is, have no idea where it is. I keep our children's. But how do we, I guess, keep a record of our immunizations? And then, since I don't remember getting a tetanus, is a good idea to go get a tetanus now? I mean, I don't have a cut, but what if something happens? And,
Right.
should we get on the schedule of every 10 years? This is just
it's 10 years, 10 years for tetanus, but two other, well, at least one of the other vaccine goes with that booster, and that's for diphtheria, which is the disease whooping cough.
Okay.
So sometimes adults will get a weird cough.
Yeah.
And we'll say, we'll ask you, are you a smoker? Have you been around smoke? Have you got some kind of environmental hazard at your job or something? But sometimes it actually is whooping cough. So whooping cough can come back to an adult that's vaccinated against it as a child. And it's a very treatable disease. It's just a very simple antibiotic. But yes, you can get that prevention booster along with your tetanus. So yes, that is something that you can probably get at either through your doctor's office, or they can do the order and you can get it at almost any of these chain pharmacies have it, and probably some of the independent mom and pop pharmacies have it as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed I went to sign up for a booster and then they said, hey, you qualify for tetanus. And like you said,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
trying to make money.
Because your insurance is going to pay for it, and they're upselling. It's kind of like, do you want fries with that?
Right, exactly.
That's exactly it.
I got you. Okay. And then another one, meningitis. It gets talked about not a whole lot. Children are getting vaccinated for it. I remember years ago, we were at a previous church and a college student contracted it and died from it. And so my children were really little. And so I was just kind of Googling, researching kind of what that was. And so then I saw I don't know when they started the meningitis or meningococcal shot, but they have that now. Do adults need to get that as well?
Adults, not necessarily, unless they are immunocompromised in some way. But if your kids are in college or late in high school, they probably need to go ahead and do it. Most military recruits get it. It is one of those things very common that when young people get gathered in kind of closed spaces, so that's usually college and maybe sports camps or things like that, and military barracks as a recruit, those are very good conditions to potentially spread meningitis. And so it is pretty much recommended for college kids as they enter or before they leave college, and for those recruits that where the military is going to make them take it regardless.
Yeah. And so are there certain groups that need to, like, for example, I remember when I used to work in a nursing home and I was pregnant, my OBGYN said, okay, since you have both of these things going on, you need to take this, this, and this. So you mentioned military, you mentioned college students. Are there any other groups of people who need to, just be more aware, or maybe those who have weakened immune systems that say, hey, you really need to see your doctor about what vaccinations that you need to get? Any particular groups of people, seniors,
Right. Okay. All right. That's a very good question. So definitely, the elderly, there's a whole panel of vaccines that are great for the elderly. Of course, the flu shot, COVID vaccines, depending on what bracket of elderly are you referring to, there will still be the pneumonia vaccines and the shingles vaccines as well. Like the meningococcal vaccine that you were referring to, maybe additional people such as people who might be working in a lab or a research environment might want to get something like that. Although I think, I think specialized jobs would actually require that, or either require about it, to a applicant, or inform a new hire that those were vaccines that would be required for the more esoteric ones. And of course, anyone who's doing severe foreign travel and off the grid areas, for adventure sports, or missionary trips, or what have you, there's a whole list of things that really the best thing is to go to cdc.gov and click on the foreign travel tab. I mean, I've done those things before for people, and they would say, I'm going to this country, and you literally have to look it up, whatever that country is, and ask, of course, the patient, well, have you had these vaccines before, or have you been there before? And if the answer is no to everything, there's going to be, these are the vaccines that you need to take, and if that's the case, you probably need to start working on those about 6 months before travel.
Okay.
And of course, even that depends on how long you're going to stay there. So if you were going to a exotic location, but you were just going to be in port, like it was a cruise, the requirement would be a lot less than if you were going in country.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those nations even require visas in addition to your passport, and the visa might require the immunization information on it. So so there are a lot of cases that involve travel where you won't have any choice about the matter, and you'll have to do it very far ahead of time. But those are usually, you just take the minimum number of vaccines to get you enough protection for while you're there. So you're not necessarily trying to build yourself up to maybe whatever the requirements are for a native of that country.
Okay. And I notice when I go to the doctor's office, they always ask, have you been to another country?
Yes.
Like, what's going on over there that I gotta, but okay.
Well, there's just so many things that happen. And of course, people travel, and people will come back with a different disease. I mean, that's, kind of the way, some of these things that we've gone through lately. I mean, some of that possibly was from foreign travel.
Yeah. And so I noticed this might have been a year ago that there was a polio outbreak amongst, I want to say in New York, maybe that's where it was. But I mean, normally people don't develop polio. That's an old particular illness, right?
That was a dead disease, exactly.
Right. Any thoughts of how that happened, or?
Yes, I don't recall now if those were people who weren't native to America, people who had immigrated or not. But we do know that there are some people that are really trying to, as you alluded to, avoid childhood vaccines. And at some point in time, that child becomes an adult, and then kind of a lot of the restrictions are off, and they're out in the world doing whatever they want.
Right.
And something happens.
Yeah.
But vaccines for polio that we've had these last maybe 10, 20, 30 years, those are all really for a population that's mostly immunized. So they don't work the same way as the original ones did when the population mostly was not immunized, because they've changed things.
Yeah.
So that's why there's more of a danger now, just because as time has gone on, we've made evolutions to the vaccines, trying to cut costs, increase efficacy, decrease the possibility of other side effects. And with polio, it's actually a condition that the virus is shed in the stool. So if you're in a less developed country and you just had a polio vaccine, at some point in time when a person uses the bathroom, they're going to shed virus. And, with the original form of the vaccine. And of course, the form of the vaccine we have now doesn't do that, but it's also not as protective. I mean, it's a vaccine made for a 99% vaccinated population. So it's not really quite strong enough for coming across a full case of the disease, that's totally unaltered.
Right. Wow. Okay. And then pneumonia vaccine. So I know the elderly gets it. A family member of mine was saying she got it. I think it's one per lifetime or something she was saying. So do children need to get it? Is that something just for adults?
It's really for adults, but there's always a caveat with the pneumonia
Okay.
vaccine. I like to joke that between medical school, from medical school up to now, I've been doing this, oh my God, 30, getting close to 40 years between
Wow.
between the education process up to now.
Yeah.
And the rules about the flu vaccine have changed every couple of years for that whole time. So there's not really much of a possibility of it ever being a one and done thing anymore. You asked about kids, so probably not with kids unless they've got a lot of severe immune problems, like the lack of a spleen, or maybe some sorts of cancer or some serious health challenges. We'll just leave it at that. And probably it will be with the consultation of a infectious disease specialist. But for adults, we generally say starting at 50. Again, caveats for immune compromised, especially people that have had significant abdominal trauma and they lost their spleen. That would be an occasion to get the vaccine earlier than 40. And then after that, that's when the controversy comes in. But there are basically three main vaccines right now, and they're all designated by a number following their name. So you might hear somebody say, "Oh, but I got the 11, or I got the 23, or I got the 17." And what the number stands for is the number of individual proteins or biomarkers on the pneumonia bacteria that the vaccine is giving you immunity against. So if you add all those numbers together, well, it would be great if you could add all those numbers together, and that would be the amount of protection you get. But basically, it's overlap. So some of the ones in the 11 are also in the 17. Some of the ones in the 17 are also in the 23. So it's always recommended that you get at least two of those.
At least two.
At
Okay.
least two. And you get those two about a year or so apart. And then basically you sit and wait 5 or 10 years and you see if the experts don't say, let's get another one.
Gotcha.
It's unfortunate but true, because the debate now has become, well, out of all those different valents, and that's what the number stands for, out of all those different valents, what's the best combination, to protect a person? So maybe whenever that is decided, maybe there'll just be one vaccine that comes out that is the full meal deal. But right now, you get at least two. You get at least two different ones, and you sit and wait for the experts to debate some more. And I'm sure there'll be another answer in a year or so.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Listen to you now. I got to get like 3 shots.
Yeah, that sounds like, yeah.
Get at least 3. What about COVID? Is here, and people are getting boosters. So I heard there was another, I guess, universal booster that's coming out towards the end of this year.
Yes.
So far. So should everyone get that? And I know everything changes, science changes. And so how often should we get COVID boosters?
At this point in time, at least once a year, unless something changes.
Okay.
I mean, it's unfortunate that, not as many people are uptaking all of the different boosters. So I had people that, they got the first 2, maybe they got the first booster and they've kind of tapered off after that.
Yeah.
I'll still be taking mine.
Yeah.
Because there's still cases.
Right.
People aren't testing as much. And it seems like, thankfully, some of the cases are milder, but,
right.
We're still kind of in this, the midst of this slow motion automobile accident, and nobody really knows, what the final result's going to be.
Yeah. Cause I was trying to take our children, they're middle school and high school age, and they didn't recommend they take the booster just yet. That the one that's coming out towards the end of the year, that's the one that they can take. Okay. So any side effects from getting vaccinations? I know when you're an infant, sometimes they'll give you 4 at one time. When you're an adult, we try that.
Yeah, it doesn't work as well. It does not work as well.
It didn't work as well. So any guidance on that? Should we space vaccinations apart? And what are the like general side effects of being vaccinated?
Okay, all right. And that's also a very good question, but you're right. The kids seem like they're a whole lot more hardy than the adults.
Yeah.
Bacterial vaccinations seem to be easier than viral ones.
Okay.
So of course, the pneumococcal is a bacteria. Flu is viral, of course. Flu vaccine used to, at least personal experience, used to bother me. I used to always take them on a Friday because I would feel kind of something
Yeah.
on the Saturday. But I mean, the last few years I've taken them, and just they've changed to the extent that they I don't notice them at all.
Yeah.
The shingles vaccine, people have said it does make them feel a little off, a little bit of soreness, a little bit of achiness and such for a day or so with the first one. And then the second one is usually a lot better. We mentioned flu. The COVID vaccine, I've heard everyone all over the spectrum from felt fine to felt worse than COVID. So
Right.
we just have to kind of take that with a grain of salt, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But most pharmacies, most doctors' offices will not give you a combination of all viral vaccines at the same time. So
Okay.
they won't really give you a flu vaccine and a COVID on the same time. They'll stair step them, or they'll say, come back this, do one today, do one in a couple of weeks, do another one in a few weeks, and such. But they won't actually do them all together. And like for the shingles vaccine, they need to be at least 6 weeks apart. So in between there, you could have your COVID or your flu, but you shouldn't take the shingles vaccine, more than less than a month apart.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess probably my last question is, how can you keep a good record of your immunizations? I know with COVID, everything is on that little card, and that's pretty easy to keep up with. Should you just always go to the same pharmacy so they can always keep a record of it, or what's a good way for people to keep a record of it?
Okay, well that's a good question. I don't know if Alabama does it, but Georgia has a vaccine registry, and I believe people can create their own profile, and therefore they can log into it on their own.
Okay.
If not, then their family doctor should be able to do it, and the health department can do it.
Yeah.
But what you suggested about going to the same pharmacy, that works pretty well if you're getting all your vaccines at the pharmacy, or if you're getting some at your doctor and some at the pharmacy, just have your pharmacy send the records. And they usually do. I usually, get those right into my fax box, and we just basically import it from that file into the electronic medical record, and then it's traceable. There should be an app that you can download for that. I mean, there are a lot of health apps, and you would honestly have to go and go to the app store for your Android or your iPhone, and read some of the reviews and look and see, does it have a vaccine tracker? I know they do a good job of medication reminders and blood pressure tracking and things of that sort. But possibly it might be one that you have to pay for, unfortunately. But I'm sure there are a few that track vaccines as well, in which case you would just type that information in and save it. And of course, you've got a password and all, and that should be it.
Okay. Okay. Well, Dr. Mill, this was some great information. Awesome information. This was great. Awesome. Lot of just information about, immunizations, vaccines, when to get them, the reasons why we have to get them, the reasons why we don't have some of these diseases is because we have been immunized as a country. And so very important, guys. Don't worry about the myths that are out there about, why you should not be taking it. This is for preventative maintenance to prevent us from getting some of these diseases that are not supposed to be just so prevalent in our country and our community. So this was awesome. Thank you, Dr. Miller, for joining us here on today. Yes, and so listen, everyone, don't forget, please join us on Sunday as we continue our discipleship series. Pastor Mason is doing a phenomenal job on just teaching and talking to us about being disciples and what that means. Everybody should be a disciple of Jesus. So join us every Sunday for that. Of course, we have children, Kingdom Kids Church that goes on at the same time, and they are learning how to be disciples as well. We have small groups that talk about discipleship. And so a lot of things going on. Any questions, you want to join some of our groups, please send us an email at ladypam@tcowi.org, ladypam@tcowi.org. Once again, thank you to everyone who helped donate, who sponsored our back to school rally. We had some phenomenal speakers on Sunday. We gave out a ton of supplies that were for not only the kids in there, but kids in Birmingham and also in the Virgin Islands. So thank you guys for your donations and everything that helped to support that. Dr. Miller, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Thank you so much, Lady Pam. I always enjoy talking with you and talking to your viewers. So really, just as long as everyone tries to make sure that they protect their health, we don't really want any more pandemics. Please, we barely dealt with this major one of our lifetimes. So as you've said in the past, our health is our wealth. And being a good disciple also involves taking care of yourself, because all these things that your purpose in life, your God's purpose, you can't do that if you're in the ICU. You have to actually take care of yourself in order to take care of others. So it's not actually being selfish. It's actually a dictate to take care of your own health, and that's something that we all want you to be more aware of.
Amen. Awesome. So right. Well, everyone, we will see you again next week here on Winning Wednesday, where we love to educate, to empower, and to encourage you. So until next time, we will see you. Thank you again, Dr. Miller. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.